The Model 1.4 keeps popping up in my content. I know. I'm obsessed. This is a setup that I'm just not going to be going back on. And I just so happened to purchase the Model 1.4. Of course, if I chose a different mixer, I'm sure I would come to the same conclusion. And take it from someone whose setup changes quite a bit. I'm always kind of looking for new things. I haven't gone back on this for months now, so it's pretty foundational at this point. Timestamps are linked in the description if you'd like to jump to something specific. I now have a Patreon. It'd be great to have you guys on board. I'm offering discounted one-on-one lessons through Patreon. If you're interested in purchasing the Model 1.4, there is an affiliate link in the description as well. Please use that link if you end up buying because it just helps me a lot. It helps this channel a lot. I would make a small commission from that sale at no extra charge to you. And also, this video is sponsored by DistroKid. They are a music distribution platform that's geared towards independent artists and producers like myself and maybe you. So if you're on the market for that sort of thing, there is a 7% discount linked in the description of this video as well. We'll be getting more into that later in this video. So I think the best way of explaining this whole thing is to just start from scratch and put something together in my DAW. So firstly, I have 4 tracks: drums, bass, synth, and perc. I'm actually gonna create groups for all of these in case I wanna add more than one track per group. So here, I'll create the groups. Right away, I'm gonna route these to the proper channel. So drums, I'm gonna set that output to 3/4, bass output to 5/6, synth output to 7/8, and perc to 9/10. Another thing I should mention, how am I running this? I'm going through my sound card, which is the Apogee Ensemble. It has D sub out, so I'm using that cable to go whoop directly into the Model 1.4. It's super easy, it's very clean, it's all one cable. So this was like an attraction for me. Output 3/4 is here, output 5/6, output 7/8, and 9/10. These are all stereo tracks. That's the groove. So we're gonna add a simple 4 on the floor kick over top of this. And we have a groove. A pretty dope groove. So that's track 1. In terms of EQ, I could slice this any way that I want. So if I want like a crunchy mid sort of drum, lots of mids. I could sculpt if I want to boost a specific frequency. Let's see what we could do here. Cool, so we have some cool EQ tools right there. Right, and then we have drive as well, which is actually, funny enough, is already full blast. So if I take that down, this is what it's doing. Yeah. Give it a bit more juice. That's great. And so as I mentioned before, I could add as many tracks as I want into this group right here. It's all gonna show up onto channel 1 of the Model 1.4. So let's do that. I'm gonna add something else in there. So without it, with it. To bring that down a little bit. Notice also that it's hitting pretty hard, like it's peaking right here. I don't care. It sounds good. I'm gonna throw some sidechain onto this texture loop. Give it a second. Sidechain that to the kick. Let's go. If you wanted to split up these drums, you could have like a true low frequency, high frequency drum split, in which case maybe you put the kick here and the low frequency drums here and then everything else, the tops right here. You could do that if you want. But another way of doing that is to just play with the frequency. So it's not quite the same, but let's say, right? So you can still hear the kick, but the low frequency, that impact is not there anymore. 3, and now it's back. So it has a very similar effect. Let's try low pass as well. It has like it has that sort of effect. And with the Model 1.4, everything you do, there's no wrong way of doing it. Everything just sounds amazing. So right away we're seeing that we have that ultra precision and like quickness of working with a DAW, while at the same time we have the performance, like flowy sort of workflow on the Model 1.4. I've discovered that it's just like really cool to think of your composition as a performance. It's also more fun to be actually performing your parts in. Okay, so before we add bass, this is another thing that we should talk about. This is another thing that brings that live performance element to the mix, in particular with the Model 1.4, because it does have 2 effect sends per channel. This is Fairfield Circuitry's latest pedal, I think. It's called Roger That. It's amazing. We're gonna hear it just on drums. So I'm gonna turn it on. So this is just the effect signal. Pretty dirty with the drums. And then without. Right, so this gets really fun really fast, as you can see. Moving right along, we're gonna add some bass to this. I wonder what the bass sounds like with that effects. Jeez. On the drums? Let's try this piano with some upward effects. And so just with these 3 elements, I'm already able to perform some sort of pass and give myself an idea of like where I could go with this track. And for channel 4, I've been like completely obsessed with perks, in particular like conga, bongo type perks. I found a bunch on output. I'm gonna just throw them in here. Yeah. Okay, wait, let's see what this sounds like. Yeah, I feel at this point with the settings here, this kind of only works on the piano thing now. Turn that down. And just like that, we have a very cool idea, a very cool starting point. This is just a 4-bar loop at this point. And it's really easy to turn this into a performance while practicing your chops all at the same time. Like, it's all here. Yeah. Bass. 1, 2, 3. Drums. So fun. Another thing about this setup that I really like is that it keeps your parts really simple. I've been in a very minimalist mood recently in terms of like composition and parts. There's 4 groups here, that's it. And this is what we get from it. It's pretty great. Obviously, if you're working with great samples to begin with, that makes a huge difference. All this being said, this seems like the dream setup. And in fact, it kind of is the dream setup, but there's one downfall in terms of actually finishing and composing your tracks. And now let's talk about today's sponsor, DistroKid. Here's a few reasons why you should be using DistroKid as opposed to other music distribution platforms, especially if you're an independent artist or producer. Firstly, they're on the cutting edge of social media and new music promotional tools. They're definitely the pioneers in that sense because their platform depends on people like us, independent artists and producers, to use these tools to promote our own music. The amount of stores or streaming platforms that DistroKid distributes to is insane. And they also keep up to date with smaller or up and coming platforms that you might not even know about or have access to. So a perfect example of this is a platform called KKBox, which DistroKid distributes to. You think that Spotify is my biggest streaming earner, but it's actually not. KKBox is, so thank you DistroKid for keeping track of that. Also, banking info and withdrawal is very easy to set up. DistroKid does not take a cut. They deliver 100% of streaming royalties to you, no extra charge. Independent artists and producers, there is a reason why DistroKid distributes 1/3 of the world's music. So this is magical, but nothing in this world is perfect, this setup included. Let's talk about the downfall. If you're routing through your mixer, any mixer, especially the Model 1.4, which is fully analog, it gives a certain quality to anything that's routed through it. It just makes everything sound better. And so when you're composing the final mix, you're gonna be hearing that through your mixer, right? So if you like the idea or loop that you've developed and it comes time to pull away from your mixer and maybe just like develop or arrange an idea in your DAW. And especially if you've used outboard effects like the Roger That, this is like a very specific sounding pedal. You're not really gonna find a VST that could emulate this quite the same. Like it's just not gonna be the same. You better believe that once you're 100% in your DAW, you're gonna have a much different quality of sound, and it almost feels like a letdown in a way because your mixer, something hands-on, can take you into that elevated sort of excited frequency. It can be deceiving in a way. Producers, you know how it is. Like you've definitely been in this sort of situation before where you hear something through another set of speakers or whatever and it sounds like. So the point is to just be aware of this before going into it. So if you do end up dropping the idea and arranging it in your DAW, just accept it, prepare yourself, and know that it's gonna sound a little bit different. Or if you're more comfortable, you could just compose full tracks, like a finished track, and then run it through your mixer to enhance it that way. I've been raving about the Model 1.4 for a while now. If you look at my Instagram, pretty much every single performance for the past few months has involved the Model 1.4 in some way, or has just been straight up Model 1.4 content. It's really revolutionized my entire setup. I've been loving it. I don't know like how popular it's gonna be or how accessible it is for everybody, but I just wanted to express this excitement for the Model 1.4. If you've had the urge or currently have the urge, maybe you're about to pull the trigger and purchase the Model 1.4, use the affiliate link in the description of this video. It really helps me out. I have a Patreon, which includes discounts. I've already uploaded tons of exclusive content as well. So join us, like, subscribe, smash the subscribe button. Hope to see you guys soon, and happy beat making and stuff.